5 Live Formula One.
Hello there and welcome to Abu Dhabi. We're at the Yas Marina circuit for the final round of the 2023 Formula One season, and ahead of us the final qualifying of the season. And here we have guiding you through the action is myself, Harry Benjamin, and alongside myself is multiple W Series race winner Alice Powell. I was going to go somewhere else with the beginning of the conversation, but something else came into my mind. We're getting ready for qualifying. It's the last one of the year. Can you tell it's the last weekend of the season? And we don't actually have too much to go on. We've had 3 practice sessions, but only one of them in the same conditions that we were about to be experiencing as the sun begins to set and the lights illuminate this Abu Dhabi Yas Marina circuit. The temperatures have dropped, and the other 2 practice sessions were done in the daylight when it was sunnier and the temperatures were higher. So what do you think we can expect from qualifying? If I'm to put one name to you, Alice, George Russell in the Mercedes has been quick out the blocks every session so far.
He was certainly on fire in that last practice session, stretching clear of the field. Lando Norris was in second. Okay, he was a 10th clear, but then Oscar was much further back compared to his teammate. Alexander Albon was there in 4th. What do we expect? Well, as you said, it's hard to gauge. I was very excited by the end of free practice 3 because I was like, wow, look at this grid. I'd take this grid for qualifying. But of course, different conditions. It was 43, nearly 44 degrees track temperature when we had it free practice 3. It is now 32.5. The air temperature is only 3 degrees cooler as well. So it's cooler, but the track temperature drops. Obviously, now we are under the lights. We haven't got the sun beaming down on the tarmac. So it's going to certainly be different. The grip levels will be slightly different. We've had a Formula 2 sprint race, should I say. But of course, with these temperatures, it's going to be about bringing in that tyre. And, you know, we haven't got the Vegas conditions that we had last time out. But of course, it's still important to get those tyres in. But keep an eye on George Russell and the Mercedes. The Lando Norris in the McLaren, because he was there in free practice 3 and in free practice 2, so he's certainly one to keep an eye on as well. Absolutely. Well, some over 4,500 lights have been switched on to illuminate this Yas Marina circuit. The marina that surrounds the track is full. The boat parties are kicking off. The strobe lights are flaring. The grandstands are packed, and we are just moments away from qualifying for the final Grand Prix of what has been a very long season in Formula One. The drivers will tackle this 5.28 kilometre track, 16 turns, 6 to the left and 10 to the right, a track which we first saw back in 2009 and was the first ever twilight race as it begins as the sun sets before the night truly kicks in, and has hosted season-ending F1 races for the 12th time it will be come Sunday. So ones to watch out for, certainly the Mercedes, certainly the McLaren as well. Red Bull and Max Verstappen complaining a lot and struggling a lot during that final practice session. Just wasn't happy with how that Red Bull was handling. No, he was been very disappointed, and actually from the onboards that we got to witness here in the comms box, it doesn't look nice. You know, he went through turn 1 on his qualifying simulation run, which was the last run that majority of these drivers did in free practice 3. He ran wide onto the AstroTurf, got a bit of understeer, and then down at turn 5, which is just the first corner into sector 2, he turned in, car over-rotated. He tried to get on the gas on the exit, and it over-rotated even more. It doesn't look comfortable, the Red Bull. Neither does Max, and he made it clear on the radio. He was like, I don't know what's going on. You know, the car just doesn't feel good. So disappointment for him so far. But you know, Jolien always reminds me of this. So does Andrew Benson. Never rule him out. It is Max Verstappen and it is Red Bull.
never rule them out. When you say over-rotating, what does that actually mean? What's happening in that moment?
So it's when the rear of the car wants to swap ends with the front, basically. So Max was winding the lock-on, trailing that brake into turn 5, and the rear of the car just started to slide. And then that, obviously, that can help a driver sometimes if you're struggling with a bit of front end and you're struggling with some understeer and you want to get the car rotated. Having that can actually help. But in his case, the front turned in not too bad, but the rear came round. He's then got to readjust his hands, readjust the positioning of the car, and then when he went to apply the throttle, the rear kicked out even more. And obviously you have to then back out depending on how much rotation you get on the rear of the car, and obviously when you're sliding you're not going quick, and he knew instantly that this was going to be a waste of time. So on the exit of turn 5 he quickly backed out, and it doesn't look particularly happy, the Red Bull, but as I said, let's not rule them out just yet.
No, well, Max Verstappen will be looking to get his 12th pole position of the season if he can get that Red Bull working underneath him. Q1 has started, green light on at the end of the pit lane, and 18 minutes already counting down to 16 minutes and 49 seconds. Nobody in a rush to go out onto the track. This first Q1 session, with all 20 drivers taking part, eliminates the slowest 5 drivers come the end of the clock. So we will wait and see who will be our first victims of this first part of qualifying. And indeed, George Russell, who has been looking good so far this weekend, he could tie with his teammate Lewis Hamilton in the qualifying head-to-heads if he out-qualifies him come the end of this session. So that will be one to watch. But there's also still some quite big scores to be settled come the end of the year. 1, 2 and 3 in the drivers may be sewn up, and our constructors winners may already have been crowned in the form of Red Bull. But in second in the constructors, the battle rages on, separated by just 4 points, Mercedes versus Ferrari. And then the battle for fourth, separated by just 11 points. It's McLaren versus Aston Martin. And also the battle for seventh between Williams, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo and Haas. Just a mere handful of points for the minnows further back in the points separates them from quite literally an extra $10 million approximately worth of prize money for next season. So there is a lot at stake here. So too in the Drivers' Championship. Over fourth place, Carlos Sainz currently occupies fourth. He's joint on points with Fernando Alonso, both on 200 points apiece. Lando Norris is a further 5 away from them, and Charles Leclerc as well, just 7 points back in seventh. So there is a 4-driver battle for P4 in the drivers' standing. So those are a couple of the storylines that we'll be following and keeping you up to date with as qualifying and indeed the race tomorrow unfolds, and you can join us for full coverage of that race from 12:45 on 5 Sports Extra. But no one, Alice, is in a rush to go out. They're leaving it very late, although Ferrari and Carlos Sainz look like they are imminently awaiting to release that Ferrari. Yeah,
who jumps first? Who's going to be the first one to brave the first qualifying session here of the day in Abu Dhabi? Engines now you can hear firing up in the Haas garage. Covers remain on to the very, very last minute. Mechanics get on their hands and knees, unplug the tyres, and it's Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. He is first to bolt, and I can guarantee you very quickly afterwards we are going to see the P's next to everybody's name disappear as they come out of the pits. Perez is next to venture out as they trek all the way down the pit lane. Here they come for the Ferraris, here come the McLarens, here come the Aston Martins, and so on.
The power units are firing up as they trundle towards the end of the pit lane. A rather unique pit lane in Abu Dhabi as they head downhill and into a tunnel which takes them underneath the track, and the pit lane exit rejoins them on the left-hand side of turn 2 as they then enter the right-hand sweeper of turn 3. So a very unique pit lane, which we did see some overtaking going on in one of the free practice sessions, crossing of the white lines as they headed into the tunnel. Verstappen not happy, waiting behind the 2 Mercedes who he believed were holding them up, so he crossed the line and squeezed himself right up against the wall and managed to get them both. But Niels Wittich, the race director, has since put a swift ban on that, so we won't be seeing that happening. unless a driver is going particularly slowly due to an issue. But cars out on track, then everybody heading out on the soft compound of tyre, just waiting for Russell, Piastri, Hamilton and Alonso to take to this track. And what I love about this kind of a track where we do run under the lights, it is a night race, is that the drivers run clear visors, so you can see the whites of their eyes, where they're placing their line of vision. They're not looking at the next corner, they're looking at the next 3 corners.
Yeah, you've got to look way down the road, because your hands essentially follow your eyes, and actually you see that a lot with young karters. When they look over their shoulder, you'll see them drifting over the direction of the shoulder that they're looking over. So drivers need to get their eyes down the road, just so, for these, especially these speeds that they're going up to, Harry, in these Formula 1 cars, just so the brain has time to process, to gather the information, to plan ahead. So there's no point looking in front of your nose box of the car. You've got to look at the horizon. And once you're in the apex, let's say, like for example Max Verstappen now, he's coming down into turn 5. Once you're in the apex of turn 5, Max is going to be looking far to the exit. Then he's going to be looking down the straight. He may look down at his steering wheel. He's got Pierre Gasly in front of him now. He's just going to navigate past, as he will eventually be one of the first cars to set a lap time as he enters now the heavy braking zone for turn 6. As sparks continue to fly out the back of his car down these bumpy straights.
All 20 cars out onto the track. If you were with us earlier in the weekend, particularly during free practice 2, which was heavily red flagged due to 2 incidents, one mainly for Carlos Sainz in his Ferrari, finding the wall coming through the right-hander of turn 3. He found the bump, the car bottomed out and he lost control. The car swapped on him and he found the barrier. Lengthy repairs on that Ferrari overnight on Friday. Have seen him get out this morning for FP3, and he is participating, but looked a little bit off colour in terms of outright pace in the final practice session a little earlier today. Nico Hülkenberg was the other driver down at Haas, who also found the wall coming out of the exit of turn 1 and damaging the rear end of his Haas. That brought out another red flag, but Hülkenberg back to normal service today. First lap times coming across the board then. Max Verstappen fastest with a 1:24.1. Albon comes into second place, a 1:24.5, and Daniel Ricciardo was third. His teammate Tsunoda just pips into that spot. So 4 drivers at the moment coming across the line to set those first lap times. Verstappen's opening gambit sees him go to the top of the timings, but Lando Norris is on a good lap at the moment, fastest of anybody in the first sector. Perez too coming a close towards the end of his lap. One final corner to go for the Mexican, who has said he has refound his form since Qatar a few races ago. Much closer to Verstappen in recent times. He puts his Red Bull up into 4th spot as Lando Norris finishes his lap and goes up to second with a 1:24.3. 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, the sound you can hear now is riding on board with Charles Leclerc. They had a disappointing free practice 3, didn't they? However, his pace at the moment, overall, 400ths down to Max Verstappen. Just saying that, as he crosses the line, he is 4 tenths down, and it's that final sector from Ferrari once again. They're really struggling, and I would say personally it's the trickiest of sectors. You've got some loaded braking corners, you've got the direction change there, and Sainz now, he'll be coming into the final corner now, goes across the line. See where he pops up to. He had a terrible free practice 3 down at the bottom end of the grid. He was plumb last, but he is 6.5 tenths off Verstappen and 2.5 tenths off his teammate.
Yeah, Sainz not as quick as his teammate in these opening stages. This is the sound of the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton round the final corner. The right-hander runs over the red and white rumble strips on the exit, across the line. It's only 12th fastest for Hamilton, a 1:25.1, and already he's put straight down to 13th, with Russell, his teammate, getting up into 9th spot. A reminder, this is Q1, the first session of qualifying, the first of 3, where we will eliminate the 5 slowest drivers. So everybody from 16th place downwards will not progress, and that will be where they start Sunday's Grand Prix. At the moment, Gasly and Magnussen are 16th and 17th, still awaiting times for Sargent Joe and Hulkenberg. Sargent's back in the pits, as too is his teammate Alex Albon, with some work being done to that car as they put on some new tyres. Everybody running the softest rubber in this session, the red-walled soft tyre. But it's Verstappen ahead of Norris, Leclerc, Albon, Tsunoda, the top 5. Perez, Sainz, Ricciardo, Russell, Bottas, the top 10. Piastri, Ocon, Hamilton, Stroll and Alonso, the top 15 as it currently stands. And this is Lewis Hamilton, who didn't have a brilliant fast lap. Did he make a little bit of a mistake on that fast lap? He came through turn 5, the left-hander ran a little bit out wide, the rear kicked out slightly, a bit of a correction needed on the steering wheel, enough to send the sparks flying from the underneath of that Mercedes. Enough, Alice, to lose a couple of tenths of a second?
Yeah, it wasn't ideal for Lewis. I'm just keeping an eye on the timing screen, because actually see some of the drivers, especially in the free practice sessions, and that does include free practice 2, which are similar conditions. We're opting to do a push, a cooler than a push, but it seems at the moment everyone has boxed. They're currently all heading back to pit lane. George Russell is the only driver that's still out on track, but I expect him to bleed into the pit lane at any moment. And they are all bolting. You can probably hear the wheel guns going. There's a few adjustments on the front wing there for Yuki Tsunoda. Certain changes, of course, they can make during this session. As back into the pits now is Lewis Hamilton, and on goes a new set of soft tyres.
Track limits, as you mentioned, coming in thick and fast all of a sudden for Sargent, Hulkenberg and Joe, all finding track limits at turn 1 and turn 16. So turn 1 is the first left-hander you come across, and at turn 16 the final corner, which we've seen time and time again. You see a lot of the cars running out wide onto the red and white sort of curbing that's there, flat curbing, but you've still got to keep one tyre on the right side of the white line. If all 4 tyres are over that white line on the wrong side, you will get a track limits warning and your lap time will be deleted. But a bit of a moment to pause after that opening flurry. They're not in a massive rush to head. There was a bit of a sort of 3 or 4 minutes before we actually got going, compared to when the clock counted down. But on the back foot with 5.5 minutes to go, the 2 Aston Martins, I think we could put Hamilton in that track.
Will be around 4 tenths.
And that's Alex Albon on the radio being told track evolution will be around 4 tenths of a second. So is this going to be a bit last man over the line?
Well, yeah, it's actually the Williams cars have decided to jump first. So they're going to be slightly out of sync with everybody else. Sargent, he got a lap time deleted, so that puts him under even more pressure now to try and set a decent lap time, because he hasn't got one on the board because it's been removed. So he is currently in the bottom along with Gasly, Magnussen, Joe and Hulkenberg. So he comes across the line now. A slow bleed up to the final corner, and then he's stamped on the gas. He's through turn 1, looks fairly neat, I would say that's just about within track limits there, Harry. And now he's through turn 3, which you're probably thinking, now how can you do track limits there? And you can if you run really wide on the exit of turn 3. And already he has gone purple in the first sector by 2 tenths of a second to Max Verstappen. So he'll hope that he can continue as he heads down the straight now into turn 6. DRS wide open, slammed shut just before he hits the braking zone. It looks quite good, that Williams. It's turning in quite nicely. Traction looks fairly good as Alex Albon sips up there. You could say fairly safe in 4th place, 4 tenths off, but with track evolution, it's certainly improving. Now, compared to Fernando Alonso in that middle sector, he is a chunk up. So Sargent, if he keeps it within the white lines, should easily jump up, I would say, Harry, definitely into the top 12 and certainly into the top 10.
He's having a better lap than his teammate is Sargent. He's quicker in the first sector, quicker in the middle sector, and this is the sound of the American rookie, yet to be confirmed in that Williams seat for 2024. Crosses the line, and it's fourth fastest, a 1:24.5, just over 3.5 tenths clear. Albon found something in the final sector and got up into second, about just under a tenth and a half back from Verstappen. So the two Williams, Albon in second, Sargent in fourth on those laps. But as you say, Alice, running slightly out of sync. His signs.
Another minute here, more or less. Ricky, I cannot overtake in the pit exit.
Okay, I know. Just tell you later. Stay there. We are okay. We'll let you know.
That's Carlos Sainz being told to stay where he is for the time being. He's currently parked up behind the McLaren. Well, not parked up, they are moving, but there's a lot of cars trundling at a very slow pace out of the pit exit.
Yeah, and I was wrong. Turn 1. Logan Sargent, lap time.
Slow, no?
This is what was agreed back, sadly.
So Max Verstappen complaining on the radio there of going unnecessarily slowly out of the pits, but Logan Sargent, lap time deleted. It looked close. Have to admit, we had a zoomed out camera angle on our screens here. It looked close, which means he was already under pressure. He's under even more pressure now as he goes again. Lewis Hamilton is only half a tenth up on Max Verstappen in the first sector as everyone's charging down the straight. People are still bleeding out the pit lane, Harry.
And they were, majority of the cars were essentially queuing out of that pit lane exit. And this and that message from Verstappen with his engineer comes in the context of what happened earlier on in the weekend during free practice, where Verstappen felt like he was being held up in the pit lane by the two Mercedes, who were going very slowly to try and give themselves enough of a gap on track. Verstappen then decided he didn't want to wait around, overtook them as they headed downhill into the tunnel and went over some white lines, went very close to the pit wall, and technically at the time wasn't against the rules. Overnight that has been discussed, and the race director Niels Wittich has deemed that is not allowed. That has been banned. So that is why you hear the exasperation from Verstappen and his engineer on the radio as they're all basically stuck behind each other, queuing out of that pit lane to try and find themselves some decent track positioning, because of course they all now have a minimum lap time that they have to do on their outlaps as well during qualifying. Hamilton comes across the line in fifth. Good last sector from Hamilton, but he's immediately displaced down to sixth because his teammate George Russell gets up into third. Russell enjoying that Mercedes far better in this Q1 session than his teammate. Gasly is the sound you're hearing now. He gets up to eighth. Logan Sargent had a brilliant lap earlier on, but that has been deleted for track limits. He's currently in the pit lane and won't get another shot at this. He's going to be out of Q1, having had a high of sixth place in Las Vegas last week to the low of being out in Q1. His teammate Albon is currently in third. Tsunoda gets up into second. Who else is going well? There's a lot of green and a lot of purple on my timing screen. The two Aston Martins, the AlphaTauri of Daniel Ricciardo's going very well. Watch out for Piastri in the McLaren too. He's had a brilliant first sector. This is the sound of Fernando Alonso. Round the final corner, has a little bit of a slide on the rear. It's 10th fastest for Alonso, a 1:25. In danger at the moment, Bottas, Piastri, Ocon, Magnussen, Sargent and Joe. Joe will not get through. He is out of Q1. The best he can do is 18th. Carlos Sainz is at risk here. He's been knocked down into the bottom 5 as Piastri is also at risk. Ocon gets through. Sainz, Piastri in trouble here, but Piastri's on a good lap. Better than Sainz. Magnussen is down in 19th. Sargent will be 20th and last. He's in the pit lane. Can Carlos Sainz get through here? Magnussen gets up into 15th. The McLaren of Oscar Piastri will be next across the line. Round the final corner, it's 11th, and that puts Sergio Perez as the next man at risk. Carlos Sainz is still in the bottom 5. He gets across the line. It's 15th. That knocks Sergio Perez down. He's on a lap as well. He's fastest of anybody in the first sector. There's 0.02 of a second splitting Sainz and Perez as it currently stands. Perez round the final corner, gets up into second, knocks Sainz down into 16th. Sainz in that Ferrari is out of this qualifying session. Sainz, Magnussen, Bottas, Joe and Sargent, the losers come the end of Q1.
Wow, what is going on with Ferrari? I mean, it's close. These times are so close. There is, well, if we're going to take Sargent out of this equation, because clearly he didn't have enough fuel, as we hear from Sainz.
So much traffic.
Yeah, Checo just improved. We have P16.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Taking Sargent, that was Carlos Sainz on the radio there, but we're taking Sargent out of the equation because he didn't set a lap time. Clearly didn't have enough fuel to do another lap after his lap time was once again deleted. But there is 1 second separating the top 19 cars. It's so close out there.
Perez with that last lap as well, within half a tenth of his teammate. Here's Sainz again.
So much traffic, I think people did it, Denmark did it on purpose. He did turn 5 ahead of me. Alpine turn 2-3.
So Sainz there on the radio claiming traffic was the real issue for not getting a fast enough lap time. We're just having another look at Sainz's last fast lap. He's coming through the right-hander of turn 3. He does find an Alpine who does get out of the way on the far left on the inside of the track as they then approach the right-hander of turn 5.
Not for me.
No?
Not for me.
If anything,
no.
I thought it gave him a bit of a toe, if anything.
Yeah, he that was Gasly. Got out the way, no problem. Logan side, that looks close.
So we're seeing why Sargent got
from
done
the rear
for track
angle,
limits.
it doesn't look close, but certainly from the other angle, it looked close. We're seeing a replay now. Zhou Guanyu having a lock-up. That was then his chances of progressing totally ruined as well. That was a lock-up down into turn 6. Magnussen, well, we saw some pictures, some nice pictures, didn't we, Harry, of his daughter shutting the visor on his helmet just before he was about to get into the car, but a disappointing end for him, unfortunately. 17th place. So Piastri has been noted, and we've seen this time and time again, failing to follow race director's instructions and maximum delta time. We see that pop up all the time. Nothing happens, but a shake of a head there from Logan Sargent. I tell you what, that's disappointing from him, because that could have potentially been a very good qualifying position, because this Williams seems like it's got the pace.
But done for track limits on the exit of turn 1 sees Logan Sargent starting 20th and last. He'll be joined by Zhou Guanyu in 19th, Valtteri Bottas in 18th, Kevin Magnussen in 17th, and the big hitter out at the end of Q1, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. That is your bottom 5. They are now out and will no longer continue in this qualifying session. 15 drivers remain as we get ready for the second part of qualifying as we head into Q2. But a real shame from Sainz, who, well, he had a comeback drive last time out in Las Vegas, having had a very fast Ferrari underneath him. Of course, the penalty he took due to his incident in free practice 1 meant he started down from 12th on the grid, managed to make his way up into 6th, even with a spin in turn 1 of that Las Vegas Grand Prix. So managed to bag some points from there. And overtaking around this Yas Marina circuit is possible. That's what the 2021 modifications were made to try and encourage. In fact, last year there were around 60 overtakes, above average for this Yas Marina circuit. And you add into the equation the possibilities of safety cars and virtual safety cars, where there's around about a 60% chance. Strategy could be key for Sainz tomorrow. But the wider picture, this is not good news for Ferrari in that battle for second in the Constructors.
No, it certainly isn't. And Hamilton was saying, wasn't he, that it seems like a Ferrari track. You know, it seems like Ferrari will be tough to beat this weekend. Well, it seems at the moment, Lewis, that maybe not. They're certainly struggling, and that's puzzling, because we thought, I did sit here and think, well, you know what, they struggled in free practice 3, but it's a totally different time of the day. Leclerc was pretty good. Okay, people were disrupted in free practice 2, but a more relevant session, wasn't it? But yeah, something's not clicked, has it, overnight recently for them? The teams have made progression. A lot of people have been doing setup changes. Red Bull are included in that, and clearly they've it's helped as Carlos Sainz does get a round of applause as he makes his way down to the pit lane, to the FIA garage. It's mandatory for all drivers, have to make their way down there to wait. The weight is taken by the FIA. That's then combined with the car weight once the cars are weighed at the end of the session to see if they're underweight. And obviously if they are underweight, there is a penalty for that. But very rare that you have a car and driver that is underweight.
That'll be Sainz's worst qualifying of the year as well. So not good news for Carlos Sainz then, with work to do for the Grand Prix tomorrow. All the other drivers now back in their garages and getting ready for Q2, where we will once again eliminate the slowest 5 drivers from 11th down to 15th. I'll tell you who came through: the 2 Red Bulls. Max Verstappen seemingly getting on top of his issues that were plaguing him during free practice 3. And we'll wait and see how that unfolds throughout the rest of qualifying. But the Yas Marina circuit lighting up here in Abu Dhabi, a track that has been on the F1 calendar since 2009 and really has cemented its position as the finale of the F1 season, with the traditional post-season test as well happening next week, the last test of the year before we get the winter shutdown. But then we're straight back into it pretty quickly again.
Winter shutdown?
Well, it's not really a shutdown, is it? Not if you're France tossed and you're working on Christmas Day. The team principal of AlphaTauri in his last weekend. But, well, they hopefully will get a little bit of a winter break, but there isn't much time, is there, before they then head back into pre-season testing and launch season, and then we'll find ourselves in Bahrain all over again. But right now, we've got Q2 session to get through, and it's already started. Green light on at the end of the pit lane, and 13 and a half minutes on the clock, and straight out is the now sole remaining Williams of Alex Albon, the Thai driver, who has had a sensational year, I think it's fair to say, for him and Williams, single-handedly giving Williams their 7th place in the Constructors, which is being fiercely contested this weekend, with the likes of AlphaTauri right behind them, and AlphaTauri bringing upgrades this weekend to try and take that battle to the very end. But once again, Alice, we're getting very slow movement coming down the pit lane exit.
Yeah, one of the most expensive queues of cars you'll probably ever see, as they filter out of the pit lane. 9 drivers out on track at the moment, as that does continue to increase as they bleed out of the pit lane. We've got the AlphaTauris are just making their way out. Daniel Ricciardo followed by Esteban Ocon, and the 2 Alpines just about scraped through, didn't they, into Q3. Pato O'Ward watches on from the McLaren pit wall. Did a great job in the rookie, say that I'm going to call it the rookie test session, because we did have 10 rookies out there in free practice 1. IndyCar star, IndyCar sensation, and he was really pleased to get his first proper taste of an F1 race weekend, as it looks like to me Alex Albon is going to be the first driver in this session to set a representative lap time.
Indeed, and just on Pato O'Ward, actually, he officially becomes the reserve driver for McLaren next season, adding to their ever-expanding pool of reserve drivers for McLaren. So a name to keep out for then. The sound you're hearing is Alex Albon in the Williams, who is embarking on that first opening lap. Stuck the soft tyres back on. Everybody out on track now, finding the space, finding a little bit of free air. Albon getting up into 8th gear, approaching the end of the 1.2 kilometre straight, which leads you to the braking zone of turn 6. The DRS, the rear wing flap slams shut under braking as he navigates the 6 and 7 chicane before he's back on it, and already up into 7th, then 8th gear on the next slightly curved straight, which takes you through turn 8 and the next DRS zone before you get into the new from 2021 turn 9, the slightly banked left-hander. A couple of hits on the steering wheel to get through the left-hander from Albon as he then starts to look 3 corners ahead of him through 10, 11, and then the tricky braking zone of the right-hander of 12, where you're turning and braking, trying not to lock up a wheel. He manages that successfully. Then it's the 2 double left-handers up 13 and 14, which brings you perilously close to the outside wall. Albon navigates that superbly round the final corner now for the Thai driver and across the line. And he's fastest, and the first time on the board, a 1:24.965 from Albon. But already the likes of Verstappen going quicker in the first sector. Russell finding good form in the middle sector. Hamilton, his teammate, will cross the line before him. Russell actually has been the quicker of the Mercedes drivers so far this weekend. Hamilton's going to come across the line first. He takes away that fastest lap time, a 1:24.8, fastest of anybody in that final sector. What can Russell do? He does pip his teammate, a 1:24.4, so about 4 tenths between Russell and Hamilton. Albon third. Verstappen is the sound you're hearing as he lines that Red Bull through the final corner and takes the top spot away by over 7 tenths of a second. The 3-time world champion fastest in Q2 with just over 9.5 minutes remaining as the lap times come thick and fast. Tsunoda across the line in third.
I'll tell you what, Max Verstappen got a nice helping hand from Oscar Piastri there. I was just watching the driver tracker here and saw his middle sector flash up, which is a good chunk ahead of anybody else, but he also was a good 7 kilometers an hour quicker than anybody else down that speed trap, down the straight between 5 and 6. I was thinking, how's he done that? And then I realised that there was this reasonably slow McLaren of Piastri that was clearly towing him a little bit down the straight. So that's where Verstappen has really found his time. However, Lando Norris has just popped up on our screens and he is currently purple in the first sector.
Yeah, Lando Norris going through turn 6 and 7 now, fastest of anybody in that first sector. He's got Verstappen in front of him and then Piastri, his teammate, who is also finding time as well. Piastri currently coming through the left-hander of turn 9. Leclerc gets his Ferrari up into 4th. This is the sound of Lando Norris, personal best in the middle sector. A reminder, the slowest 5 drivers will be eliminated from this session. Perez gets up into second in the other Red Bull. Norris making his way now through turns 13 and 14. Little bit of traffic to his inside. It gets out of the way. Final corner. His teammate comes across the line in third. Can Lando Norris pip his teammate? Yes, he can. Norris gets up into second. It's Verstappen, Norris, Perez, Piastri and Russell, the top 5. Tsunoda, Leclerc, Alonso, Stroll and Hamilton on the bubble in 10th, and currently at risk of elimination, Ricciardo, Gasly, Albon, Hülkenberg and Ocon, the 15 drivers that make up this session. So Hamilton a second off at the moment, on the bubble in 10th, in trouble, Alice.
Well, he said last night, didn't he, after free practice 2, he was like, I'll tell you what, we're going to be lucky if we're going to get through into Q2. So he's done a good job to make it through into Q2, but how long is that going to last? Because he may be out fairly quickly. As you said, he's right on the bubble there. Disappointing lap time, you could say, from Albon. He was sitting quite high up, 4th, wasn't he, at the end of Q1, so he'll be looking to try and move a bit further up as another lap time has been deleted. This time it's for Nico Hülkenberg, so he'll have to go again. But I wonder if McLaren will be saying, come on Oscar, can you not please give Verstappen a tow down the straight, because that was a very handy speed trap from Max Verstappen down that back straight, and certainly a handy middle sector as well.
So just over a second covers the top 10, 1.3 seconds covering the top 14, with Hülkenberg and his lap deleted, so he currently is 15th and last with no time on the board. He will get another chance to do so as most of the cars come into the pits and get fed back into the garages, and will bide some time, some fresh rubber perhaps, and then sent back out on track. Albon, once again, the Williams running out of sequence on an outlap. currently, while everybody else is tucked up in their pit boxes. So Albon and Williams preferring to go out and do their own plan and have the whole track to themselves with 5 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. And Albon, as it currently stands, is in 13th position. Last time, of course, qualified in the top 5 in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing to have the track to yourself. You don't run the risk of someone spinning in front of you, causing a yellow flag, or getting traffic. But what that can mean is you don't get that track evolution, and also if people come out of the pits, you are likely to then get a tiny bit of traffic or people not in the best position on track. So, but Albon is, as you said, they did it in the first session as well, didn't they? In Q1, they decided to go out different time to anybody else, and that is a sound you can hear now as he comes flying through turn 15. They have a wider line into 16, but all drivers are doing that just to open up the corner a little bit, to get on that throttle a little bit earlier to try and gain those important hundredths of a second of the sparks fly out the back of his car as he comes through turn 3. Well, look, as he cuts the timing beam, and he is just over 2/10 quicker than Lewis Hamilton's best first sector. So again, that will be due to some evolution of track, but he did actually set the fastest speed trap there as well, as he goes steaming now down into turn 6 on the brakes. Gets it turned nicely, bumps over the curb there, but that doesn't unsettle him, and then through the tricky 7, which is hard to get on the throttle there, goes off camber, and then you feather your way out to the curb, and then that is a corner to watch out for the race, where you'll see drivers constantly fighting with the rear of the car there on the gas. And now, more bad news for Lewis Hamilton, as it's 4/10 of a second up is Alex Albon as he goes now, Harry, into the final sector.
Yeah, Albon on a new set of soft tyres, as is everybody who's coming out of the pits at the moment. Hamilton on an outlap at the moment, and Albon with just a couple of corners left to go. Careful not to break the track limits rules round the final corner. Just about keeps it neat and tidy. It's enough for 5th for Alex Albon, a 1:24.4. And the FIA this weekend, as the round of applause from the Williams garage, they were very happy with that lap. He's about 7/10 off Verstappen. The FIA this weekend have been using AI to improve the policing of track limits, with some trials taking place in Abu Dhabi so far this weekend. The use of computer vision, a program that is using shape analysis, and the idea is that this will be used to judge pixels on a video feed to better judge when the cars have breached track limits. So a bit of trial and error going on, and the introduction of AI helping to police track limits, and certainly at tracks, I think Austria comes straight to mind for next season. Might go somewheres to making things a little bit more clear-cut and simpler, but at the moment then, the only person who's had their lap time deleted so far in this Q2 session of qualifying has been Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas, who is back out on the track. Indeed, everybody except Max Verstappen is on the track, and most people running, everybody running a new set of a fresh set of soft compound tyres, as Charles Leclerc ramps up for a lap. Nico Hülkenberg is in the middle sector, finding time as well. Daniel Ricciardo in the AlphaTauri has set a personal best in Sector 1, as has his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. So the two AlphaTauris looking quite quick at the moment. They've brought upgrades this weekend in their battle further down the grid for 7th in the constructors with Williams. AlphaTauri currently behind Williams, but now Williams with only one car left in the game in this qualifying session, and AlphaTauri with 2. Do they have the slight upper hand when it comes to the grid spots that this determines for Sunday's Grand Prix? And remember, you can listen to all of the action for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix on 5 Sports Extra on Sunday from 12:45, lights out from 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari had a good first sector, not a brilliant middle sector, had a little bit of a twitch coming through. I think, was it 5 and 6 and 7? Did Leclerc, as he now is coming into the right-hander of turn 12, keeps it hooked up. Just a couple of corners to go for the one remaining Ferrari, with his teammate Carlos Sainz out in Q1. Leclerc, the Monegasque racer, crosses the line, and what's it going to be? It's third fastest. He finds the time just shy of 2.5 tenths from Verstappen. So it's Verstappen, Norris and Leclerc at the moment. At risk then is Tsunoda, Alonso, Stroll, Hamilton and Ocon. Gasly gets himself up into fourth. Good lap from the Alpine man. Tsunoda had a good first sector, losing a bit of time in the middle sector, but he's found enough to get himself and that AlphaTauri up into sixth spot. Albon won't get another go at this. He's currently down in ninth in that Williams and is looking at elimination as Stroll in the Aston Martin gets himself up into ninth. Ricciardo currently down in 11th. I don't think Ricciardo's going to get another go at this either. He's going slowly. I think Ricciardo will be out as well. Russell, Alonso, Hamilton currently 13th, 14th and 15th. Alonso up into 6th. Russell and Hamilton on decent lap times. Russell finding the better time as he comes across the line. He gets himself out. Can Hamilton do it? He takes the line and he's only 10th place. Russell on the Hamilton on the bubble, and Russell getting up into 4th puts his teammate down into 11th as Piastri now sits on the bubble. Hamilton is going to be out in Q2. 11th at best. Piastri is in the top 10 as it currently stands, finding time, but I think he's backed off coming through the final sector because nobody behind him is finding any more time, and that is how it will remain for Q2. Hamilton out, and at best will start this Grand Prix on Sunday from 11th ahead of Esteban Ocon in the Alpine 12th, Lance Stroll in 13th, Alex Albon 14th and Daniel Ricciardo 15th.
Yeah, wave from his hand there of Lewis Hamilton in frustration. He's not been particularly happy all weekend, has he? And again, continues to wave his hand with disappointment as he's going to take his Mercedes back into the pits. But a good lap there from George Russell, and also a good lap from Pierre Gasly. Max Verstappen was the only driver that opted not to go out. And I would say that's probably disappointment for Albon, considering his pace in Q1.
Yeah, it will be 14th place for Albon in the end. Ricciardo struggling as well. I'm not sure if he had made a mistake on his last lap, but he is down in 15th, and his AlphaTauri teammate Tsunoda managed to get through to Q3 in 8th. So too did Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas in 9th. Good lap from the German. So, to reiterate then, out of that session and no longer taking part in qualifying, Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes in 11th, Esteban Ocon in Alpine in 12th. Here is Hamilton.
Something not right with this car. Okay, copy that. Yep, we're starting everything.
Hamilton then, not feeling everything is right with that car. And Bono, his engineer, saying they will begin the debrief. Esteban Ocon for Alpine 12th, Lance Stroll for Aston Martin in 13th, Alex Albon for Williams in 14th, and Daniel Ricciardo for AlphaTauri in 15th. Next up, the top 10 shootout and the battle for pole. And right now, Alice, it's looking like Verstappen is favourite.
Yeah, well, I mean, shock. But Andrew Benson has just pointed out to me that Max Verstappen actually set his time on a new set of soft tyres, whereas Lando Norris did not. So even though he's around about 1/10 off, he was on a used set of soft tyres. So could that mean that we've got even a closer battle for the fight for pole position? Clearly, I'm not going to be silly enough to write out Verstappen this late in the day, considering he is in such fine form and clearly been giving us something to talk about after free practice 3, when we were saying what's going on with Red Bull, as some of the drivers continue to wait in the car. Esteban Ocon has not yet hopped out, and that is because they're praying, they're sitting there hoping that one of those in front of them, maybe Russell, Hülkenberg, Alonso, who all improved at the end there, would have done it by exceeding track limits. But there's nothing that's popped up on our screen at the moment, so unfortunately for the likes of Ocon and Albon, they're going to have to hop out of their cars very shortly.
Well then, A pause before we get into Q3 as the music continues to blare around this 5.28 kilometre Yas Marina circuit, getting ready to host its 15th Grand Prix on the Formula One calendar. Outside of Verstappen then, who are your standouts a little lower in the top 10? Quite impressed there from Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri, Hülkenberg as well, and the Haas to drag those cars up into Q3.
Yeah, those two that you've just mentioned, a good job from Hülkenberg, seeing that Magnussen was out in Q1 in 17th. Tsunoda popping it up there. Gasly as well, seeing that his teammate Esteban Ocon is down in 12th place. But Leclerc, you could say not a bad effort from Leclerc, seeing that their pace in the previous practice session was, well, pretty shocking really, and that Sainz has got out in Q1. Sainz is in the pen complaining about the traffic not helping him. But I think people did really get out the way. I don't think that
he's really going hard on that traffic. He did that at FP3 as well.
He did, and I just think the pace is not there in the car, and he's just saying that it's the he's admitting that the pace isn't great, but using the traffic as a bit more of a reason or an excuse as to why that he didn't progress through into the next session. But Lewis Hamilton then, helmet on, trudging down the pit lane, wiping the sweat off his brow. Trainer alongside, going to do, as I said, the mandatory weigh at the FIA scales. And I tell you what, it's never something you want to do when you've had such a disappointing session. Making your way down the pit lane, stepping on the scales, they take your weight down. Then you go out the back, you've got to go to the pen. Lots of things these drivers have to do before they can actually sit down, have a breather, have a chat with the engineers.
Have you ever said no and just walked off, or do you get into serious trouble with that?
Well, you have to weigh, otherwise you will get the consequences. But in terms of media, yeah, a couple of times.
Because they do say in all the race directors' notes, you know, the drivers are obliged, they have to go and talk to the media. But you do sometimes see them not turn up. Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to hide in these paddocks. People may say, well, you know, go to the back of the garage. You could just go to your hospitality. Yeah, go out back of the bins. But there's cameras everywhere. There's obviously the Drive to Survive documentary that's constantly filming in the paddock. You've got fans in the paddock, or hospitality guests, should I say, in the paddock. There's people everywhere. The only real quiet space you get, and even so, if you want to have a big shout or something like that, get something off your chest, your driver room is within, sort of above the hospitality or within the engineering department. So even then, it's not a quiet space, but that's your only real space you get to let off some steam. So it can be a very hard environment to relax in sometimes, and especially clear your head and clear your thoughts when you just want to get away from everybody and sit on your own, think about the session, what might come next. But the driver room, the private driver room, each driver will have one within their hospitality unit, is the only space to do that. And sometimes, as I said, it's a while after certain sessions that you get to go there. As we're about to get underway, and who's that down the end of the pit lane? That looks like a Red Bull, Max Verstappen potentially, that's already queuing at the end of the pit lane, as Ferrari are ready to send out Charles Leclerc as well.
Yeah, they are not waiting around. And well, you wanted Formula One close in 2023, and that last session, around about 0.7 of a second covered the top 15, or all 15 drivers in that session. So fine margins at the pinnacle of motorsport. But we're back underway then for qualifying as Q3 gets going, already counting down to 11 minutes and 37 seconds. The top 10 shoots out the fight for pole. Red Bulls, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez both looking quick, but so too is the McLaren of Lando Norris. And what can George Russell in the Mercedes do? He's looked quick out the blocks so far this weekend, but when it matters, can he challenge for a top row on the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix? The lights are on, some 4,700 lights illuminated around this track. A twilight race. It begins as the sun sets, and then the lights slowly come on, and Yas Marina begins to look rather splendid, with the marina full of boats and yachts and parties, and the thumping of music in the background to entertain the fans all around in the grandstands. Absolutely packed out in Abu Dhabi. A track that was remodified back in 2021 to help aid overtaking. The removal of the chicane at the start of the second sector widened the following hairpin. Then the twisty chicanes at the start of the final sector also replaced by one long banked corner. Now the left-hander of turn 9. But here we go then, all 10 cars left in this qualifying session on the circuit with around 10 minutes to go. Verstappen will round the final corner and be the first man to embark on his first competitive lap time. New softs for everybody. Softest rubber, the red wall tyre, the C5 tyre being used, the same as Las Vegas, but of course very different track conditions. Air temperature 26.4 degrees, track temperature 31 degrees. And Verstappen making his way through the left-hander at turn 5, comes across the Mercedes of George Russell. Might have just interfered with Verstappen's flow slightly as he went a bit wide on the exit, kicked up a bit of dust offline behind the red and white curb. The DRS ring slams shut under braking as he heads into the chicane. Turn 6 and 7, a slight incline as you then head up and around the second DRS zone towards turn number 9. That left-hand banked corner. Again, another car, the Alpine, just hugging the apex to get out of Verstappen's way. But nice and smooth so far, Verstappen, as he brakes for the right-hander at turn 12, and as he does that, the car and the floor hit the ground and sparks fly from the underside of that Red Bull through the left-hander of 14, getting oh so close to the wall. One more corner to go for Verstappen for his opening gambit. And what's he got for us as he crosses the line? It's a 1:23.445, his fastest lap time so far today.
It is, but watch out for these McLarens. Piastri has stolen the fastest first sector off his teammate Lando Norris, who in turn he previously stole it off Max Verstappen. But a good solid middle sector for Max, not as good for Lando Norris. But Norris has been pretty strong in this final sector as that McLaren goes in really nicely to the final corner. Where does he pop up? Up into P2. 4/10, Harry, off Max Verstappen.
Yeah. Norris then in second. Tsunoda got himself up into third. So did Hülkenberg. Norris then losing a little bit of time compared to Verstappen. What have the other Red Bull and McLaren got? Perez will cross the line. He's third fastest, so 1:24.1. Piastri, fastest of anybody in the first sector, but after the middle sector, he's about 4/10 off of Verstappen. He comes across the line now. He puts his McLaren up into third, so it's a McLaren Red Bull sandwich with the two Red Bulls first and fourth, with the Norris and Piastri McLaren second and third. Can Leclerc upset the apple cart in that Ferrari, which looks a little bit off the pace? No, he cannot. 8th fastest, a second off of Verstappen's lap time as we await times from Russell and Gasly. This is the sound of George Russell.
Yeah, with Lewis and with Carlos going out in the previous qualifying sessions, this does make even more important these positions for Russell and Leclerc as that battle for that constructors' positions continues. And well, it's up to Mercedes at the moment because they have Russell jumps up, okay, 7/10 of a second off Max Verstappen, but he's up in 4th and Leclerc down in 9th. Verstappen,
Norris, Piastri, Russell, Perez, the top 5. Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Alonso, Leclerc and Gasly, the top 10. And we just had a little look, and you just heard a slight ease on the throttle from Sergio Perez in the Red Bull coming through turn 1, the exit of turn 1. Here's what he had to say about it.
What was that out of 1? Horrendous drivability.
And that might well have cost Perez, well, maybe not the 7/10 that he's behind his teammate, but certainly a little bit of lap time as the rear stepped out from underneath him. A bit of correction on the steering wheel, and right at the start of the lap, then you're constantly having to minimise the damage from the very get-go. So, is it Red Bull versus McLaren for the battle for pole?
It's looking like it at the moment. I mean, we were silly, really, weren't we, to think that as we hear from Leclerc.
Yeah, but it's so weird. We are struggling so much on scrub because that was a good lap. That was a really good lap. But, you know.
Confusion continues down at Ferrari, but we were silly to maybe think, oh yeah, maybe there's a chance. Red Bull don't have the pace. I mean, they were fooling us all, weren't we? Or were we just fooling ourselves?
But how many times has that happened this year? They've had maybe slight off-practice sessions.
And I try not to fall into the trap.
It's the hope that kills you, isn't it?
It is. But it was a strong middle sector once again from Verstappen. Norris and Piastri not replicating what they did in the previous session, and actually that's where Max Verstappen's got the legs at the moment on Lando Norris. He didn't have the help of a toe this time, so wasn't as quick down the straight, but still did a good middle sector. And to be honest with you, I'll tell you exactly where the middle sector starts, and it is just on the exit of turn 4, so that's just going into turn 5, and then it bleeds all the way down into turn 9. So actually you've got two braking zones, because it's before the braking zone of turn 9 that the sector finishes. So it's a hairpin, and it's a chicane, and two very long straights.
Well, we're about to see them embark once again as the pit lane begins to fall into action. 4 minutes left on the clock, and it's a little bit tight there as Leclerc has to back out for Alonso in the Aston Martin, who just cheekily gets out in front of him in the fast lane.
Now, I don't think Max is going to be particularly happy with this.
Q Team Radio?
Q Team Radio, I've got it right so far this weekend. As he actually now near enough stops on pit exit. He was first out, wasn't he, for that first run in Q3. And he actually tried. He didn't try because he was not allowed to do it. But he looked over the shoulder of Charles Leclerc going down the pit lane to almost say, "Mate, come on, get a jog on here because I want to get past you." And Leclerc was just trundling along, and then that allowed the McLarens to come out, and then Alonso, I would say quite rudely, sort of forced his way out. He's entitled to do it, whether it will be an unsafe release, as we're just seeing the replay now, and he might get pulled up on that, Alonso. The mechanic did wave him out, and you have to... Oh no, he tried to stop him.
We've seen that.
And that was Leclerc's engineer reporting that they have seen that, which means they've reported that to race direction. You can see Alonso actually, as he pulls out in front, quickly looks in his left mirror. So I think Alonso knows what he's done there. But we'll see if that comes to anything.
Well, people say, and I've had it before, people say, well, why don't you just look like when you pull out? You know, as if you've got all that vision there, you're sat at a car junction and you're pulling out from the shops. Really not that simple. You rely so much on your mechanics, and if they've given you that signal to go, you think, okay, you have to trust them.
You have to put full faith in them, right?
You have to. And the mechanic has clearly waved to go, yeah, you're clear to go. And then he stops, but by that time, he must be slightly out of Alonso's vision, because you're so restricted with the hands device, the headrest. You've not got much sort of turning angle with the hands device on, and also the head, you're so sunk into the cockpit of the car that the headrest is near enough, sort of in line, just under your eyes, essentially, depending on where you do sit in the car. So it's so hard to see. So it's definitely not on purpose that they deliberately pull out. It's just because you can't see, and you have to put your faith in your team.
All right then, here we go. 1 minute and 40 seconds on the clock left of Q3, the final qualifying session of the year, as we await to find out who will be on pole position for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. At the moment, Verstappen has the advantage, but Lando Norris is looking very quick in that McLaren. He's fastest of anybody in the first sector. Oscar Piastri, his teammate, also finding good speed in the middle sector. Alonso in the Aston Martin further down, currently in 8th, but finding good time in the middle sector. Everybody out there on track. Is it Red Bull versus McLaren for pole? Can anybody else interfere in these final stages? What can George Russell and the Mercedes do? Has looked quick all weekend long, and Mercedes embroiled in that fight for second in the constructors with Ferrari. A big slide for Lando Norris coming through turn 13. The rear almost flying from underneath him. He manages to catch the car, but would have lost a chunk of time. Round the final corner for Norris, crosses the line, doesn't improve, and did it all come undone in that corner where he lost the rear for Norris. He won't be able to improve. He gets pit by his teammate Oscar Piastri, who finds time. Piastri second, Norris third. Verstappen's also on a lap, but he's lost a bit of time in the middle sector. Alonso's Aston Martin with a good lap time up into 4th. Has Norris just thrown away a chance at pole position here for Abu Dhabi? This is the sound of Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari round the final corner. Has struggled so far this weekend, but has put it together right in the closing stages of qualifying and puts that Ferrari in second spot. But can Sergio Perez or Max Verstappen prove them wrong? Verstappen takes provisional pole for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Perez is 3/10 down on him at the moment. It's Verstappen who is looking set to take his 12th pole position of the season. Stunning lap from Yuki Tsunoda to get that AlphaTauri a top 5 starting position as it currently stands. We await laps from Gasly, Perez and George Russell, all in the final sector. Perez will cross the line first, round the final corner. He's currently down in 9th. It's only 5th for the Mexican. We look next to George Russell. Can he do anything? He's had a decent middle sector, but I'm not sure he's got enough for Verstappen. We'll see across the line. It's enough for 4th, and he splits the McLarens, but a lap time deleted for Sergio Perez puts that Red Bull down to 9th. Can Gasly find any time? No, he cannot. And that is qualifying, and your final qualifying session for 2023 done and dusted. The Verstappen fans rise in the grandstands as he clinches his 12th pole position of the season, and he makes it pole number 32 in his career. He will start the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix alongside the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri in 3rd, Russell, Norris the top 5, Tsunoda, Alonso, Hülkenberg, Perez and Gasly the top 10.
Wow, I mean, that's an effort from Charles Leclerc, but Max Verstappen, as we'll hear from him now.
And I reckon you owe this beatbox an apology, mate. It's P1.
Sometimes you can make it better, you know. I think that's what we did, so well done. Great job.
Yeah, well done, mate. You've just won me €500 off helmet, which is like getting blood out of a stone. So, yeah, fantastic job.
Now we lost the bet. What world are we living in?
Exactly. The bet was for you to be on the front row, mate.
Nice.
Verstappen there chatting with team principal Christian Horner, and extra please.
I'd ask for a cut of that money if I was Max Verstappen.
At the very least. So clearly the pit wall very happy that their man Max Verstappen takes the final pole position of the year alongside Charles Leclerc. It's Red Bull and Ferrari on top at the end of qualifying as Verstappen pulls up into Parc Fermé, a smile on his face as he lifts his visor and looking like he worked hard for that one. What a sweat on the brow for Max Verstappen. And I think Charles Leclerc will be pleased to have salvaged second there in that Ferrari.
Yeah, where did that come from? He pulled that out of the bag, didn't he? After saying it felt like it was a pretty decent lap. But I tell you who's going to be really disappointed, and that is going to be, well, Perez, of course, getting his track limits at turn 1, but Norris, I mean, that was a big step of oversteer on the exit of 13, and 100% that cost him certainly second on the grid. Don't think it was fast enough for pole position, but it certainly cost cost McLaren a second and third.
Yeah, a big slide for Lando Norris coming out of turn 13, just carrying so much speed. The rear couldn't quite cope. It's quite a spectacular slide, very rally-esque. He managed to hold it together, finish off the lap, but I think you're right, time could have been enough for front row, with Piastri, his teammate, in third. The Rookie of the Year getting a top 3 start. And we will hear from our top 3 in qualifying shortly, as they all begin to pull up into Parc Fermé. Speaking to former Renault F1 driver Jolyon Palmer.
Oscar Piastri in the top 3 again at the end of the season. How was the lap?
Yeah, difficult session. You know, it's extremely tight this weekend. Yeah. It's been a bit of a messy one. Pace has been there, just a lot of mistakes, and last lap I made a little bit of a mistake as well, but it would have been quite a last corner to get to the front. So no, happy with that. Car is very quick this weekend. Nice turnaround from Vegas for us, but no, happy to be back in the top 3.
It looked like a bit of an Oscar special, where you sort of build your way through, you get quite quiet through practice, and then get to Q3, absolutely deliver the pace.
Yeah, I think practice, the pace was there, just there was a couple of big mistakes in every lap. I think I went into qualifying and I hadn't done a clean lap all weekend, so yeah, made life a bit more difficult for myself. Q1, messy. Q2, got it together finally, and yeah, pace was pretty good in Q3, so happy with that. Just, yeah, close, but not quite close enough.
And any idea about the race pace? We've had quite disruptive practice sessions. Where do you think you stand?
Not a clue. I don't know. For everyone, I think it's going to be the same story, you know. I think the most anyone's done is probably 5 laps in a row this weekend. So, yeah, going to be interesting to see how everyone pans out tomorrow. But, yeah, we'll see.
We'd love to hear it. Well done today, Oscar. Great job.
Cheers.
Charles, back up into the top 2 in qualifying again. Quite close in the end to Max. Really good final sector brought you there, but just 1/10 away.
Yeah, but honestly, considering the weekend we've had until now, I did not expect it at all. The last lap, I knew I had to put absolutely everything together, and I did. The last corner was a bit too much sliding, but I think everybody had that. So really, really happy with the second place. I mean, in Q1 and Q2, I was worried to go through, and at the end, a front row. So it's amazing.
Where do you think it came from then? It didn't look easy. Your teammates out in Q1. It looked really difficult to make it through, like you said, and then suddenly you're nearly on pole. Make any changes?
Yeah, for some reason, again, our car is very picky. So whenever we are on scrub tires, like the first run in Q3 was a very good lap, but we were last. So I was like, okay, I didn't have many hope. But then when we put the new tires, everything comes alive, and it felt great. And again, I did a great lap, so really happy to be on the front row, but it's a big surprise.
And the race tomorrow, eyes on Mercedes, I guess, for you, trying to get ahead of them. George Russell just starting behind you. How do you think it's going to go?
Well, I hope it's going to go well. That's the target, is to beat them in the Constructors' Championship. So I really hope Carlos can have a great start and then join me in the fight. And let's try and put both of our cars in front of both Mercedes and come back home with the second place in the Constructors. That is all that matters to me this weekend.
All right, well done, Charles. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Max, pole position once again. You're back to the front. Looked like that one was in the bag from quite early on. You seemed really comfortable in that session.
Yeah, very weird. I mean, the whole weekend so far has been a bit of a struggle. So we definitely improved the car for qualifying, and from lap 1 it all seemed a bit more together, and we could definitely push more. So yeah, of course, very happy to be on pole.
Could you feel it from the first lap of Q1 that the car suddenly came alive and you were in a much better place then?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, around here already with the tires, like if you have like little slides and whatever, it can cost you a lot of lap time. And that was what was happening for us in practice, but then in qualifying it all just was a bit more connected.
And tomorrow, the final race of the season, the final race in your RB19. You've done so much damage with it, broken so many records. Is it going to be an emotional one? You're still going to go out there and kill it?
Well, yeah, well, let's see. I mean, I have no clue how good we're going to be in the race. Normally, we're always quite decent. But yeah, it's been a very special season, and yeah, we've been enjoying it a lot, and of course we're very proud of what we have achieved so far this year.
Yeah, it's been spectacular to see. Well done, Max. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
And well done, Jolyon Palmer, for the questioning of the top 3 in qualifying. And that is it. The last quali of the year. Just one more race to run. And starting it from pole position will be Max Verstappen alongside the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, Piastri, Russell, Norris, the top 5. Tsunoda, Alonso, Hülkenberg and Perez with a lap time deleted at the very end will start 9th in front of Gasly. Hamilton knocked out in Q2, starts 11th in front of Ocon, Stroll, Albon, Ricciardo, the top 15. Sainz in the other Ferrari knocked out in Q1 will start 16th in front of Magnussen, Bottas, Joe and Logan Sargent. Those are your 20 runners and riders for the 2023 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. My thanks to Alice Powell. I've been Harry Benjamin. You can join us for the race on 5 Sports Extra, coverage from 12:45 with lights out from 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. But for now though, from Abu Dhabi, we'll hand over to the commentary from the rugby union. It's Saracens against Bristol Bears.
Didn't appear to get much power behind that kick.